Okay, here we go, folks. We are getting set. 103 Wednesday, and we are. Let me just adjust that. There we go. All right. There we go. Okay. Lots to update you on. Good. Here we go. JR's got in queue. All right, we're ready to go in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes out on this Wednesday. Latest on Pawtucket. Latest on the Pawtucket firefighters. Latest on the victim from last night. Also, by the way. Oh, there we go. Nope, that's not what I want. Yes. All right, well, let me do this. Okay. And we'll do that. Let me just do this one more time. Folks, again, on this Wednesday, we will be active tonight, maybe this afternoon. I'll give you the latest on the firefighters, amongst other stories. All right, we are standing by. Let me just check. Remember, you can also you can watch us right now. Let me check the volume on X. There it is. It seems fine. Yes. You can. Okay, that sounds okay. And then let me just also check YouTube. Folks, we have multiple ways as we continue to grow on all our platforms. How about TikTok? There you are. Folks, we have multiple ways as we continue to grow on all. Listen to that nice, clear sound. TikTok. There you are. Folks, we are up to 106 excuse me, 1,000 followers on TikTok. And growing. So we're going to wait for JR to give us the cue. And then we are also going to be joined by attorney Stephanie Murphy. Okay, we are waiting, and I think there it is at 106. 106 on this Wednesday. Folks, good afternoon. I actually want to go. I'm watching live in the courtroom just for a moment with the Karen Reed situation, Karen Reed trial. There's a preliminary motion taking place right now. And I want to just, we're going to talk to attorney Stephanie Murphy in just a moment. But I do want to dip in because someone who has certainly been a focal point in the case, I believe, is about to get up and take the fifth, use the opportunity for the Fifth Amendment. I want to just see if, hold on. Oh, all right. Well, they bailed out of it then. All right. Let me go to another feed then. I just had it. And then I thought, and I'm trying to do a little bit too much at once, but I just want to see this because it would be significant. Well, we'll monitor. We will monitor that. It sounds like it's a little bit of a delay. But folks, let's get right to it. There's a lot in play right now. And someone that we've been talking to who has great insight is attorney Stephanie Murphy. And we certainly appreciate Stephanie is joining us from a remote location. And so I want to, I don't know what we can, nope, we had her. And for some reason we did not, there she is. All right. Stephanie, let's jump right into this. And again, folks, it's attorney Stephanie Murphy. Stephanie, we're going to go through, first of all, we appreciate taking the time that you're traveling and remote and so forth. But let's just start with, this is pretty dramatic, where Pawtucket have announced that 4 firefighters have been fired and 4 more, I believe they've resigned, but 8 pushed out. So I'd like to just start with, and I'm sure you're familiar, it's so extraordinary because most of the time it's impossible to terminate someone because of their union contract. I'm going to lead our discussion by saying I've learned and reported on DePetro.com that the city has video evidence of these 8 firefighters using cannabis while on duty. If you could just touch on the element of first responders in drugs and alcohol. Okay. Now, for whatever reason, um, I want to just double check. We cannot hear Stephanie. We cannot hear her. Again, she's on remote. Okay. I think I just heard a pop right there, Stephanie. Go right ahead. Oh, we had you. Nope. We can. I just started to hear you. If you just tilt it right back and do a test, I believe you can hear me if you adjust your volume. And let me just double check, folks. We can see her, and if she just pans it down, we should we should be we should be able to. It's a really bad connection. Okay, we can reschedule for another time. I can see you. I can see you, and I think we can hear you. So I can. Let me just, folks. I know we're live. Nope, she dropped off. Okay. It seems now. All right. Well, then we will reschedule. Again, she is on remote location. And so, I'll just jump into the situation regarding the Pawtucket. Oh, are we? I thought I heard a pop. So let me see if, hold on one more time. Try one more time. Just because I gave such a, there we go. All right, let's try this again. All right, and right out of the box. Good afternoon, Stephanie.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good. There we go. All right.
Perfect.
Now, if you don't mind, you would agree with me, I would think, the extraordinary nature that these 8 firefighters in Pawtucket have been 4 terminated and 4 put in for apparently retirement, but 8 gone. If you could just touch on the extraordinary nature of that, because of normally their union contracts are so rock solid that normally when we see someone go after a first responder, it's years of litigation sometimes.
No, John, you're absolutely right. With the firefighters, they are protected.
We heard her and then it dropped. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Okay. She has a tough Wi-Fi connection where she is. All right. It started fine, but then for whatever reason it cut out. All right. We will reschedule. We will, let me just send her reschedule. Okay. All right. Well, we listen. She was saying she's on remote, and excuse me. Let me just finish up with her. It started fine. Okay. All right. That's all right. We will. I don't think unless she, no, I don't think she's back. All right. Let's just begin. We're gonna reschedule with her. She was in a traveling, tough Wi-Fi area. We will do it. Work out something else. Let me stay. Excuse me, folks. Let me stay on schedule. This portion of our program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Now, again, they are officially open for the season. They have all your Easter plants, beautiful selection of pansies, pansy flats, pansy bags, hangers and bowls, assorted colors. They have all your Easter plants, tulips, hyacinthus, daffodils, hydrangeas, all available. 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. I consider them Rhode Island's #1 garden center, and they're now officially open for the season. Look for them on Facebook. It's PR Landscape Materials, excuse me, and Garden Center. And also, this portion of the program brought to you by Propane Plus. Folks, for all your propane needs, call Propane Plus today at 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus. You can log on, propaneplus.com, residential or commercial. You can depend on Propane Plus. And you just type in your zip code for all your propane needs. It's Propane Plus and online at propaneplus.com. In Rhode Island, she's back again. We can try it again. 401-885-4209. All right, let's see if we can. There she is. All right, let's try it again, Stephanie. Stephanie, take it right from the top. The extraordinary nature regarding the Pawtucket firefighters.
It is pretty extraordinary, as you were saying, since they're protected by the union. It's very difficult in order to do anything with people who are protected by a union. It's years of litigation. There's different hearings that they can go through. But in this case, these circumstances must be pretty extraordinary for this to be what the result is right off the get-go. So it's very interesting. I'm very interested to hear exactly what they're finding, exactly what the investigation is, if this carries over to other firefighters or maybe even first responders. So I think this is a really interesting story that's going to get bigger and bigger.
There's 8 of them suspended last week. Just my information that I'm reporting is they actually have them on video using cannabis. And what strengthens this to me is the extraordinary speed and nature of which the city has even said they're going to open a criminal investigation. We'll leave it to you on this, but I would believe that the city, if this were true and they have video, it would explain firing them for cause and also the extraordinary nature of how quick this happened.
I'm sure it's right in their contract that they cannot ingest alcohol or marijuana while working and other drugs. So I'm sure as soon as if there's video proof.
So good. It was so solid. And then it just
faded
out.
They're absolutely in, violation of their contract.
Now, Stephanie, I also want to ask you, and again, folks, it's attorney Stephanie Murphy. In the Karen Reed trial, opening arguments start next Tuesday. The prosecution has said they intend to use some of the interviews. This is a defendant who's done an extraordinary amount of interviews. She's done docuseries, sit-down interviews. A lot of people have questioned whether or not, a lot of criminal defense attorneys have questioned whether or not they, we lost her. Well, it is, we're going to, all right, this time we're really going to, okay, let's do that. No, that's okay. We will reschedule. Okay, we will reschedule. No problem. I'm flexible, folks. No problem. Okay, we're going to move on from that. I'm just going to finish this. I didn't intend to talk about the Karen Reed thing right away, but I know some people are claiming about the nature that the prosecution is going to use. They're going to use some of the interviews that the defendant has done. And as I was mentioning yesterday, the entire time we've covered this, whether it was attorney Stephanie Murphy or attorney Tim Dodd or anyone, folks, there's a reason why, and I mentioned this yesterday, when they are reading the Miranda rights, what's the first thing? This is anyone that has ever watched a crime show on TV. You can have children the first words they repeat is, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And so I'll just say this. There's a lot of speculation of how, and opening arguments start on Tuesday. But as someone that has sat in court, when you're in court, and this is important for you to take away, when you're in court, to me, when they play a video, it's almost as if you're back in school and they're going to show a movie or they're going to show a film. And I go back to, being at St. Paul's School. They'd shut off the lights and it'd be a slide projector and everybody's facing in one direction. And even when you go to a movie theater, everybody's quiet, right? There's no talking in a movie. It's like that in court. My point is, it's very effective and you get everybody's attention. And what I think is extraordinary about the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the special prosecutor's decision to use, that they're claiming they're going to use video interviews of her, is this is going to be the first time you're the jury and you're sitting there, and she's going to sit there silent at the table the entire time. And as she's just sitting there, not saying anything, they're going to hear her in her own words. And if all spliced together, she gives different answers to a lot of the questions. And so my point is, what they're going to be watching is there's the person and she's saying all these different answers. Now, I'm not going to get into a big argument. I encourage people, let this play out. The question remains whether or not the prosecutor can make the argument and show the evidence that she's guilty of what they're accusing her of. But what I believe is, and I don't know if this ever been done before, where the opening argument starts with video interviews of the defendant talking and saying some things that I believe are pretty incriminating. So I think it'll be different. I think it's going to be hard to get around that. I'm going to come back to Pawtucket in a moment, but just to finish the thought, regardless of where people stand on the case, if you just step back for a moment, I want to see how that's going to play out, with the jury that's going to be watching that. I think it's a really interesting tactic. And there's nothing immoral, illegal about it, unethical. There's nothing like that. But you're in the jury. Just picture any case. Picture you're picked for jury duty, or you've sat on jury duty, and you sit there, and the opening argument of the prosecutor is this showing video of the defendant who's sitting silently at the table discussing the case. I don't recall anything like that. I've been in court in North Kingstown when they showed just the naked fat test coach, when they showed the the coach in the interview he did with police, and he had his attorney with him. It was in an interview room at the North Kingstown Police Department. They didn't open with that. And on top of that, Aaron Thomas, I believe, has said he's going to take the stand. So, but they didn't use it in the opening. And so I think potentially, you talk about in politics, you want to define your opponent. Buddy Cianci used to talk about define your opponent before they define you. And someone who's then just going to sit there quietly, silently, doesn't have to testify. But in a way, the videos of her are her testifying. I recognize yesterday she said, she doesn't care. I wouldn't take back anything. I don't know about that. They're going to get some of the footage that they didn't use, so that we haven't seen. So that's something to look forward to. I'm going to talk about the situation with Pawtucket. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Kids Club on the Pike. Now, summer is coming, and for a lot of people, you may not realize it, but if you're a parent, you want to start making plans now to get your child in the camp at Kids Club on the Pike. It's right off of 295 on the Cranston-Johnston line. Kids Club on the Pike. Now, right now, it's a tremendous venue for birthday parties, before and after school care, preschool care, but they also offer summer camp. Reserve a space today for your child or grandchild at Kids Club on the Pike. You can call them at 401-443-5336. Call Kristen today. Reserve your spot for Kids Club on the Pike. 401-443-5336. I also share their Facebook page. I also want to remind you, before I talk about these Pawtucket firefighters, folks, JD Lawn Care and Tree Service, for your home or business, now is the time. Maybe trim some trees or spring cleanup. contact them, 401-441-0154. I share their Facebook page. Now, before I talk about Pawtucket, last night, if you were watching Road Patrol, we were the only ones there. Night was kind of hit and miss a little bit. All of a sudden, you had an incident on Cranston Street. Actually, the location we spend the most time, Cranston Street in Hanover. And now everyone's reporting it. I've heard that I did receive a statement from police, and the statement is the victim is no longer in critical condition. No arrests have been made, and detectives are still investigating. So they haven't been able to speak to him because he's in recovery. But I believe the suspect is still on the loose. So, but that was, if you watched it, that was pretty good. As much as, I go back and forth. If you watched last night, when we arrive at the scene, now we were at that scene before the crime scene tape went up. However, the fact that the individual who was sharp object to the head, I did see him leaning against the wall at the liquor store. I always contemplate, should I stay at the scene where that's happening, or they were trying to find the suspect, Hispanic male who was on a bicycle. And I think we made the right decision in not staying there because it could have been pretty gory. Now, regards to the Pawtucket firefighters, just hear me out. I'm very comfortable with our reporting. And I am surprised. Today's Wednesday. We broke the news on Saturday. Last week, news came out that a group of these firefighters in Pawtucket were suspended. And there was a lot of speculation of how many, what was the cause. Some people were saying the mayor's out to get them. And there was some pretty tough talk. There was talk about, the mayor said he was mortified. The city was talking about criminal charges. So I did some digging, and with good sources that I have, on Saturday we posted that what the city was alleging, and my information tells me they have video proof of 8 firefighters using cannabis. Now, people have been asking me for the names. I'm not providing the names yet because there'll be a time for that. As far as the names, 4 have been fired, and 4, I believe, resigned immediately. But if you just step back for a moment, I know some people were discussing on the page, oh, so what? It's legal in Rhode Island, and what's the big deal? And and I get the whole thing. Would you want to run into a burning building, folks? As you heard Attorney Stephanie Murphy, these are first responders. In their contract, police, firefighters, paramedics, you can't, first responders cannot operate under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And I have learned more that that's actually one of the things that it's pretty cut and dry that they can terminate you for. Now, they could appeal and go through the process, but the way it was explained to me, that the city wouldn't even do this unless they were on very firm ground. Now, some people are very upset about this. Some people want to say it's not fair. If you're one of those people, or you're connected to these firefighters or anyone like that, well, then that is something that needs to be negotiated. And I'd like to, to me, I think it's pretty universal. There are those union contracts are ironclad, police and fire. And we've seen the extraordinary effort police have to make to try to terminate a police officer. I mentioned last night, you had the Providence firefighter that we got the body cam from Johnston. He was annihilated with the Johnston police. Now, he put in, I believe he immediately put in for retirement so he could get his pension. I'm not saying that people shouldn't get pensions. But what I'm saying is, I'm curious to see, are people going to have the discussion that police and fire should be able to, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't even need to ask the question. Are people people really trying to argue that police and fire should be allowed to do their jobs and operate under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Let's step back for a moment. I don't know of any occupation where an employer says, other than maybe being in a band, where an employer says, or a comedian, maybe, where you're allowed to do that, where you're allowed to use drugs and alcohol while you're doing the job. What you have to step back on is, if this were just like a accusation, they wouldn't. If this was just an accusation, I don't even think they would have suspended them. If this was just an accusation, they certainly wouldn't have fired them. The people that I've talked to have told me the only way that the city could move in this direction between Mayor Grabian and Vin Regusta is, and it's just as I reported on Saturday, and it's on DePietro.com. We have the Saturday story and then just updated, and that is that they have video evidence of them using it. And as I've said, I'm not going to get into, were there edibles, were they smoking? I've heard combination, I've heard mixed things. I don't know who was doing exactly what, but as of right now, it's also extraordinary. There's a lot about this that is so unusual, folks. I mean, if I had had a chance, we could have talked a little bit longer. I can't name. Can you name any time? Eight of them fired. Boom, just like that. What I also found really unusual is the union didn't have any comment, which is, you never hear that. If this were, I don't want to get into different hypotheticals, but there's a lot of different situations. And people, I don't understand the people that are even speculating. I've given you the answer. It's on DePietro.com. I still have people, do you ever know anything about this? And what do I say? Check the page. I see people speculating underneath comments on stories posted on Channel 10, Channel 12. Anyone know what this is? It's right there. If this were so many different things, people were speculating, maybe it has to do with overtime. It doesn't have to do with overtime. You don't suspend and fire people within a week. You don't have the mayor saying, I'm appalled at seeing something like that. There would be a process. They'd go through it. And as someone explained to me, this is one of those things. It's rare. It's definitely rare. It's unusual. But video of people on duty, by the way, I hope that's stressed enough. I'm just convinced people just don't read. I've seen people, so what? What, they don't have a private life? You're what part of on duty are you not getting? Who said they're on duty? Well, listen, do you think they'd be terminated if what, there was video of them getting high at a cookout? No. Do you think they'd be terminated if there was video of them drinking at a cookout? No. But the cannabis thing, I fully get that it's legal now in the state. But the part that, and I also understand, there was a time that if you were applying for a position with the state police, they would ask you, have you ever experimented with pot, with marijuana? And they would say, it's okay if you did, you were in college, but a lot of people, boom, that's it. I understand that, especially with younger people, it's totally changed. But these are first responders you're talking about. And for anyone, and there are people, by the way, I'm not going to get into a big debate about it. There are people out there, for whatever reason, that are trying to make an argument as if it's not a big deal. But I want you to think, if you or a family member, loved one, were in a situation, you were depending on first responders to, react in literally seconds and using the training. And if something happened, how would you feel if then you found out that they were under the influence of drugs or alcohol? I think that would be a reason to be upset. You'd be upset anyway if something like that happened, but certainly under those conditions. So I'm not going to debate it. If there are people that really think, I think they should be allowed to drink and smoke while on duty, You can think that. I would argue you're pretty much in the minority. I don't think a lot of people seem to think that, but that's what it is. That's what it is. Folks, this portion of the program brought to you by ServPro Providence. ServPro of Providence. Call them today. Now, disaster strikes. You have a fire. You have a flood. You have mold. ServPro of Providence. Call them 401-941-5500. ServPro of Providence. They're fast. They're thorough. They're professional. 401-941-5500. 5,500. When disaster strikes, when something happens, they're available 24/7. They have the latest technology, certified expertise. You have a fire, flood, home or building, commercial, ServPro of Providence, 401-941-5500. And then I also just want to mention, it is turning into a nice afternoon, and I think we're going to get some good days during this Holy Week. Folks, Watson Materials, they're open. They're waiting for you. South County Trail. Call Sean for request a quote, 401-885-0600, 401-885-0600. Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island, whether it's landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. And I share their Facebook page. All right. So just repeating, last night, from what we understand, the victim is alive. Now, that could have been a homicide on Cranston Street. We were there. Check the news. We were the only ones there. Number two, people can be upset at Mayor Grabian. I don't know what to tell you. People can get upset, about they run into burning buildings. I get the whole thing. That's true. Firefighters do run in. We see them every night. We saw them last night they were there on scene with the rescue people as somebody got stabbed in the head on Cranston Street. I think we saw them even earlier in the night. It all starts to blend together after a while. But I'm not sure about the defense of that people should just look the other way unless, I don't know. I mean, are people really kind of going to try to argue it they need to go to rehab? If they have them on video using cannabis on duty, and I don't know why some people are saying, I need to know. And also, listen, hold off. I don't know. I mean, do I really? I need to know the name. What do you mean you need to know the names? Learn the difference between need and wants. Let this play out. Do I have the names? Of course I have the names. I haven't published it because let this play out a little bit. Let the city announce it. There's no benefit in me in doing that. And let's see. I don't know. Are they going to appeal? I can tell you it's so unusual. And I'm hearing from other first responders that frown on it. I've heard from a family member of one of the firefighters who's saying, you should, now it's on me. You should go around and film what the other, city and town firefighters are doing. Well, number one, I'm not the one that filmed it. That's number one. Number two, I don't have time for that. I have no interest in that. If that is a defense, then I guess you try to appeal it like that. I am unaware. You should go around and film, and they start naming different cities. If that is going on, I am unaware of it. I've never seen anything like that. So I believe Pawtucket would like to think this is an isolated case, but it is unusual. It's not one. It's not two. I think it's 8. I think that's it. Now, if a family member is saying there were more than 8, again, that's the city to investigate. I'm not investigating. I don't have time to investigate that. It's not my investigation. That's the city's investigation. So but I don't think that's going to play to try to say, everyone was cutting through the guy's yard. That's just the ones that got caught. I take it up with the mayor. Take it up with the city. It's obviously a big story in the city, and we're gonna let this thing play out. But for one of the family members, I am, how come you're not mentioning that it goes on in such and such a city? I am unaware of that. I didn't know that. Well, how come I'm not mentioning that? I don't know about that. And if that is going on, then you can take it up with those. I don't have, there's only so many hours in the day, folks. I don't have time to go around to different scenes to see if first responders are using drugs and alcohol at a scene. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by J. Perry Paving. Hey, listen, as now it might seem like winter is over, J. Perry Paving, contact them for a free estimate, 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730. I share their Facebook page. It's letter J, J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service. As you're listening or watching on this Wednesday, how would you like to get your driveway paved? Contact J. Perry Paving today for a free estimate. 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730. Letter J, J. Perry Paving. And no one has a better package for veterans than J. Perry Paving. Nobody. Free estimate. Give them a call. 401-732-1730. Well, folks, good afternoon. Excuse me. On this Wednesday, I don't know how long that it's going to go on like this. I am a little surprised. I was talking with a first responder this morning that said, this is remarkable. You're the only one that has this story. And I said, I'm not shocked by it, but I don't know the nature of where this is going to go. But that is what's going on in that. I also want to touch on this. There's a group that has popped up. And I get that a big thing now is these people, they're into true crime, and they love to be an online sleuth. And this really started, I don't know what, I shouldn't say that. There were some recent examples where this has become very popular. The Idaho college student murder, that was an example where there were all these people, by the way, on TikTok, and they were naming different people that they thought were responsible for it. And none of it obviously proved to be true. Brian Kohlberg wasn't on anybody's radar, certainly wasn't mentioned as part of that. And so I think it's really pathetic that Michelle Romano's family had to put out a statement saying that this whole business, that she was the victim of a serial killer. So this group has formed on Facebook, and it's a private group. And there's a media outlet called Mass Live. And they did a story on, people in New England are consumed with, serial killers, and how the group is shot up in membership. And folks, the fact, the people that are putting this stuff, it's not based on anything. And as someone that has dealt with families and families that have a missing person, that these people just are there have been examples of human remains being found in Connecticut and Rhode Island, but there's no tie that this is in any way a serial killer. So I just wanted to mention that, I had to deal with this on the page with some people that wanted to post things, and they just want to make a link, and people start doing videos on it. And there were people that were trying to link the woman that was killed and found in Carbuncle Pond, and they were trying to link that to Charlotte Lester, and there's no link. And I know with Michelle Romano, people immediately try to say, they were asking me in posting, do you think that Perkins guy is? No, there's no connection, and there's no correlation to that. So, I mean, I get that a lot of people are into that, but this fanning the flames, and I think in the story on Mass Live, they even mentioned that there's no evidence with some of these human remains that have been found, there's no evidence that they were even murdered. As I have explained, there are different instances where there's so many overdoses, and then the people that they're with who are not in their right mind panic and essentially just like dump the body. And that doesn't mean that they were killed. Now, there's no excuse for that, but for people to then make the leap that there's a serial killer on the loose is I just, as someone that deals with many of the families, they don't appreciate it. The people in these groups, they don't care. They just want to put that out there. It's a little more glamorous. But I just, it's extraordinary to me that the family, and I'm glad they did it, of Michelle Romano, had to put out a statement that they, like, stop using us, Michelle's death, as an example of a serial killer when there's no evidence of that at all. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Arch Design Builders. Now, I've already heard from a number of people that met them at the home show. They've heard me talk about them. You can call Ed and Roxanne at Arch Design Builders, 401-207-4124, 401-207-4124. Kitchens, bathrooms, basements, decks, special projects. Arch Design Builders. Call them today, 401-207-4124. Now listen to me very carefully. These are the type of people that you're going to want to do business with, and you're going to discover the Arch difference. Arch Design Builders. They're talented, they're wildly talented, and what a difference when they get started with projects with different clients. The question becomes, what can you do for us next? Because people are so happy with their work. Call them, set up the meeting. Let's dream a little bit. Call Roxanne, 401-218-9707. I share they have a great online presence with Instagram and Facebook. It's Arch Design Builders, and they are terrific and a joy to deal with. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again on this Wednesday during Holy Week. Now, the weather, somewhat pleasant. I think tomorrow's going to be really nice. We are going to be busy with Road Patrol Live later. And I also, I just want to mention to people, I hear from a number of different people that have various problems. And they reach out to me. Hey, can you highlight this and that type of thing? I just want to remind you, and maybe some people are unaware of this, but we have, wherever you live or your businesses, you have elected officials, and they're paid, and they're supposed to be there to serve you for when you have a problem. So whatever that problem may be, they get paid. They're elected. They're supposed to be there working for you. Take advantage of that. Contact them. Make them work for you. But I also encourage you, when you do that, you want to make sure that you put it in writing. Email is so easy. Everyone has email. Then you have a record of it. I hear from some people that say, I called back in the fall. If you place a call and leave a message and no one calls you back, it's almost the equivalent that you didn't call. But with an email, you have a paper trail. So you have to know wherever you, and this is a little bit of a public service announcement, but wherever you live, you have a state rep, you have a state senator, you have a town council person, you have a city council person. They're getting paid. They're being compensated. Put them to work. Include them in the email. You can CC me on it. But you have to have a paper trail of this stuff. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Roof Co. Rhode Island. Call them today, 401-868-7149. Roof Co. Rhode Island. Listen, why not take advantage? They'll give you a free estimate. Is it time for a new roof, to determine if your roof, commercial or residential, has sustained any wind damage. They'll give you a free estimate, whether it's a leaky roof, missing lifted or curled shingles, granules in the gutter, damaged chimney flashing, Roof Co., Rhode Island. Give them a call, 401 868 7149. And if they have to, they'll walk you through the whole process of, with insurance, decades of experience as far as a free estimate on wind damage. Roof Co., Rhode Island, 401 868 7149. Now, folks, good afternoon right now at 1:48. I also want to mention that it's without question, I'm seeing some people, and Channel 12 and some of these outlets, they're leading with, oh, look at these ICE agents, and they're smashing the window of this. There's an illegal who's in the car with the door locked and won't come out. So they box them in and they still won't come out. And then they have the attorney saying, I was mortified, my poor client. There's a really easy solution to that. And that's unlock the door and come out. I don't have any sympathy on that. I see these people saying they're deporting U.S. citizens. Now, one of these immigration attorneys, well, part of this year started with ICE and the FBI and Homeland Security raiding the office of an immigration attorney, Molina, in Providence. That was the week right after President Trump was inaugurated. And if you have immigration attorneys who they're not from our country and they manipulate the system to provide it for illegals to stay, maybe it is time to deport them. I don't have sympathy for these people. So an illegal who's wanted by the police, they box in the vehicle he's in. Sir, step out of the vehicle. He won't get out of the vehicle. Won't get out. You're not supposed to be in the country. They have felony warrants for you. And you don't have the rights of an American citizen. And we're supposed to feel bad that the ICE agents are breaking the window to get the person. Here's a thought. Comply. Listen, you're not even supposed to be here. The Boston Globe today is just, they are absolutely up in arms over the fact that Harvard could get this government money. What is happening with some federal agents smashed car glass, detained Guatemalan in New Bedford. What are they supposed to do? Leave? Okay, there's the person we're looking for in that vehicle. And they're saying, whatever his name is, come out of there. Here's the Boston Globe. The man's been in the U.S. for 2 years, was undocumented, had no criminal record. I don't believe that. According to who? According to who? He had no criminal record. What, the immigration attorney? Yeah, they were all upset about the doctor from Rhode Island until we found out she went to Lebanon to attend the funeral of one of the leaders of Hezbollah. Who has sympathy? What part of you're not supposed to be here do these people not understand? They're deporting U.S. citizens. I don't believe that. I think that's a lot of misinformation. Harvard urges researchers to limit spending, cease hiring if projects are affected by Trump funding freeze. Harvard has billions and all their alum that are successful. Why do they need all this government money? Why is all our taxpayer money going to them? With all the DEI programs, with all the anti-Semitism on the campus? Why are we funding that? They get no sympathy from me. Even to Harvard, the world's richest university, $2.2 billion makes a big difference. Well, maybe some of their alum can have a fundraising drive and make up the difference of that. Trump administration sues Maine over participation in transgender athletes in girls' sports. Folks, by the way, Rhode Island and McKee has the same policy. Rhode Island and Maine have the same policy. What ground are they standing on? What planet are they living on? This is where I agree with Bill Maher. Bill Maher, and we talked about this with Donna Perry, recanted his dinner at the White House. And he said that it is ridiculous that these boys are playing girls' sports. And this whole argument of, well, they identify as it's totally foolishness. And I'm glad that that is an issue that the Democrat Party owns. But make no mistake about it, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee has the same policy as Maine. See, McKee thinks if he sits in the back of the class and doesn't raise his hand and hides, that he's not going to get noticed. But they are knocking on the door in Boston regarding being a sanctuary city and sanctuary state. They're knocking on the door in Maine with their transgender policy. How is that fair to girls? I never understand that about the same group that is all about girl power, right? Remember Gina Raimondo, the governor for the day, but it's only open to girls. She was so proud standing on stage during the pandemic with Dr. Nicole Alexander Scott, female, the school education commissioner, Infante Green, female. At one point in the very beginning, God bless me, Margie O'Brien of Capital TV asking the questions. Janet Coyne of DEM. Raimondo, love this. Look at this. All women, no men. And yet, so I don't understand like that mentality. And then they say, isn't it great that Stone, who's a senior, who last year was Steve on the track team, is this year changed his name over the summer to Stone. Now his hair's in a ponytail. So he has a new name, ponytail, new look. And now he's the fastest runner on the girls' team. He's beating all the girls. I just, for the life of me, I don't relate to how that crowd comes down with that argument in that manner. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Listen, call Corey today. Do you have a sport court? Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. They had a big appearance at the home show. 401-283-9815. Now, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. They do sport court resurfacing, pickleball, tennis, basketball. They can epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring. They can make your pavement look like new. They seal coat driveways, parking lots. They offer crack filling, pothole repair. You know, I should bring them along with me some night as we're riding around, certainly in the city of Providence. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call them today, 401-283-9815. 401-283-9815 for Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. And again, especially this time of year, what a difference it's going to make on your basketball court or tennis court, or they'll epoxy a garage. They'll make the pavement look like new. Call them, free quote, 401-283-9815 for Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, we will be active with Road Patrol Live later. That turned into quite the scene last night. It was actually, the scene was that was more severe than we initially thought, or I did anyhow. Last night, first, you just, a lot of times some of the people that hang around in that area of Cranston Street. I mean, last night we saw some of the Hanover Street gang. That is the street gang of the West End, Hanover Street, many times feuding with the Harriet Street boys of the South Side. But that when you're talking about sharp object to the head, that could have been turning into a homicide. Now we didn't know initially how serious it was as we were on scene, because a lot of times it was also very late last night. There was an incident at the Apple Valley Cinemas at Warwick Mall. And Carol knew about it. I did not go. I was in bed, was ready to go to sleep. And then suddenly we hear about that. But I had been going all day. But we're going to be active tonight and looking. I don't think we have any rain in the forecast. Certainly dry for all of today. Tomorrow, it could get up to 60 degrees. Good Friday, dry. How about Saturday, Holy Saturday, 76 degrees. Fantastic. And then Sunday, Easter Sunday, 63 and dry. So we're going to be very active. And just repeating, I encourage you, log on to depetro.com. It's many times when we get an exclusive, it's an exclusive for all of, maybe sometimes a day, maybe sometimes 2 days, but it's unusual. The story that we broke about the Pawtucket firefighters, we're still the only ones that have the story. And I feel very confident about the reporting. I felt confident about it on Saturday when we broke it on depetro.com. I feel even more confident last night after they fired and got rid of the 8 of them. All right, if you're listening to the radio, great job by JR. Stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we'll see you later on Road Patrol Live.